So the roots of Yang Sheng, the first reference of actual lifestyle practices is from that Magwandui tomb scrolls, which were discovered in the 70s. But the roots of it are even deeper in Zhuangzi, in early cosmological background of the sort of philosophical stuff. And there's two fun stories I want to tell you. So this historical context comes from early philosophical literature, especially Daoist texts. And Zhuangzi's lived like fourth to third century before the Common Era. And one of his most famous stories is in chapter three, um, about Cook Ding. Have you guys heard this one? Anybody? Cook Ding? He was a literal cook, and his name was Ding. So this is great, right? Because one of the things that Tara will probably talk about is the elitist history of Yang Sheng, because of course, people who have the space to do self-care and the money and time resources to think about their diet and have options available to them, choices at all about what they eat, are usually elites. Like we're living in a very blessed time right now. But I want to point out to you that Zhuangzi was just a cook. And a lot of Zhuangzi's examples of um, the perfected examples of living in accordance with nature and like living, like practicing Yang Sheng are normal people. We're going to talk about a cook and then we're going to talk about a carpenter, but there's others in his writing. It's very good. I suggest reading it. Anyway, so the teaching is like this. Prince Wen Hui, and I'm sorry, I don't speak Chinese very well. I don't know how to pronounce these words. Prince Wen Hui of Wei is watching his cook, whose name was Ding, butcher an ox. And he doesn't just like whack at it using blunt force, right? He moves gracefully and beautifully. And the prince notices this and he asks Cook Ding, and Cook Ding shares that first, when he began cutting oxen, he saw the whole animal. And then after 3 years, and three is a important number, right? Above, below, middle, right? There's a reason it's three. It doesn't really mean three. It means three. After 3 years, he no longer saw the whole ox, but perceived its internal structure of the ox. So he knew, okay, as I approach it with my blade, I know that there's going to be a big tendon right there, so I better avoid that and get through there. There's probably some. So he's thinking about the mechanics, right? But he says now he no longer uses ordinary perception, and his spirit moves through the ox, and his knife just follows natural openings, and he's no longer perceiving and understanding, like thinking from here. His spirit moves through the ox and moves where it wants. The emphasis here is on intuitive attunement, attunement to phase, not mystical psychic stuff. And as such, Cookting's knife never dulls. In fact, he says he's been using the same blade for 19 years. Imagine never having to sharpen your knife for 19 years. In difficult areas, he says, he just slows down, becomes attentive, and the knife passes through. He says, the edge of the blade is so fine that it's almost like it doesn't exist. And if you think about this from the physics level, you know, it's like, like where does your butt sit on your seat, right? Like on a molecular level, you're never actually touching what you're sitting on. He's kind of talking about that, right? The knife is so thin at the edge and it just follows, knows how to go, he knows how to move right into the hollow areas. So he avoids the joints, gets between the tendons, doesn't even touch the smallest ligament. So this story illustrates how to preserve life and vitality. If you move against the structure of things, you wear out. And if you move with the structure of things, effort just disappears. So you can kind of think for yourself, are you a person who forces things? Are you a person who pushes in white knuckles and has some excuse about why it has to happen, right? The ox here represents the complexity of the world. You probably have a really good reason why you have to push, why you have to overdo. I know that I make really good reasons to overdo all the time, and they're never good. That's the ox, right? And the knife represents life energy. So our choice of how to use the knife demonstrates our accordance with nature. The difficulty that we have within time is representative of the gap we have between ourselves and what's really happening. We can make that gap larger, we can make that gap smaller. So Cookding's relevance to Yang Sheng, the message here is that Yang Sheng is not just a pile of health techniques. I'm not here to help you fill up a notebook to put on the shelf. This is the meaning of Zhuangzi's story. It's about reducing friction. So the main points, we align with natural structure. We do not force things, and we preserve vitality by following patterns. Incidentally, this is the foundation idea for later Chinese medicine. The texts that we use in Chinese medicine are a little bit later than this. They're close, but a little later. And the main thing, the main foundation idea for Chinese medicine is that health is the result of living in alignment with the structure of life. And this is what our classic texts, the Suan and the Nanjing, say. So later, this work becomes seasonal behavior, dietetics, breathing, longevity. But it all goes back to Zhuangzi and the ox.